All right. You want to move on to chaotic?
Okay,
Your
I
hot
think
take?
Okay.
I'm not gonna give an option. I'm just gonna throw it out there because I think this is definitely the elephant in the room in the rock community that has happened in the past year. Controversial. Everyone's got an opinion, and I think we would be remiss as rock fans to not talk about it. Linkin Park.
Ooh.
We gotta talk about it, guys. We gotta talk about it. I tell you why. Actually, before coming here, I went to our favorite falafel place. Great falafels, by the way. And there was a young lady who had a Metallica shirt on, and I said, "Hey, I got my Metallica shirt on also." It was under this thing, and we started talking about it. She's like, "What do you think about Linkin Park?" You know, and the new singer Emily Armstrong. And we went into it for a little bit, and it got me thinking. We haven't talked about Linkin Park.
That's true. That's very true.
I think we need to address the elephant in the room. That is Linkin Park and Emily Armstrong.
All right. So I'm going to hold you to a stance on this. Do you think Emily Armstrong fits Linkin Park better than Chester Bennington?
Okay.
As your hot take, you have
I have to do my own hot take.
You have to take a stance.
Okay.
Okay. We can discuss Linkin Park all day.
I mean,
but for you to
this can be. I don't know if it's. We can. This can just be an open discussion. Honestly,
I think we
can
could
take.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's a big topic because
it is.
We have. Let's just address it. Chester Bennington is and will always be probably one of the most influential and quintessential voices in rock, in music in general.
Absolutely.
You cannot replace a Chester Bennington. And particularly is the influence Linkin Park had on, like, you know, people try to peg them as new metal. They weren't really. They did what I think Limp Bizkit tried to do, and you know was actually good at it. But what they did for that rock, especially in that, you have to understand the early 2000s was a hard time in rock. Metallica was on hiatus for about 3 years. There was a lot of talk about whether or not they were going to stay together. Korn and Limp Bizkit was basically trying to dominate and keep it going. And then enter Linkin Park. And I remember hearing the first album, and it was just like, what the fuck is this? Who is this guy?
I think I remember we were, I forgot where, and it just came on. And we were like, what the hell is this? And it was like kind of like today's hardcore in its infancy, right? Just a lot of dynamic things going on. Just great. I mean, it was like almost like the first time hearing Eminem, like they just stood out so much from everything else. You're like, what is this?
And I admit, I wasn't taken by Linkin Park to begin with. Like at first, I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand Chester. I didn't understand what was going on, and I take that for granted. I'll own that. But over time, Chester just sealed himself into like rock history as such a important, not just his voice, but just important influence on rock and pop culture. Just the things that he talked about, the raw emotions, his, you know, suicidal thoughts, his commentary on addiction and not being able to get over it. I mean, Crawling to me is such a heartbreaking song, but it's such a accessible song for people who are going through the same thing, you know? So just saying that, it is impossible to replace Chester Bennington.
It is.
And it is an impossible task for Mike and the guys in Linkin Park to even start. Well, first, after that tragedy, and rest in peace, Chester, after that tragedy, having to come back together into a room and say, are we doing this, guys?
Exactly.
Are we even doing this?
And two, how?
Yeah.
And you have to give them credit because they didn't try to replace Chester.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of bands would have tried.
Yeah.
And I mean, some bands thankfully didn't. Like, I bring up Alice in Chains a lot. They didn't try to replace Lane Staley, right? Because You can't.
You can't.
Nirvana.
Nirvana,
I
the
mean,
same thing.
Dave Grohl had, like, obviously he had his success afterwards, but
Yeah.
he
There's
didn't,
no way you
he
could
didn't try to replace
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain.
Yeah,
Exactly.
There, you can't. There's just. I mean, it would be impossible to do that. So I think one, they realized that like, there's no way we're gonna be that band again.
Nope.
But at the same time, Mike Shiroda's like, but we could still be a band
Exactly.
and appeal to an audience. And I think that's where Emily Armstrong came in.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if this is true, and I haven't actually read that much about it. Maybe this is him saying, we're not that Linkin Park anymore.
Yeah.
Right? He made a
Okay.
statement by bringing her on by saying, the Chester Bennington Linkin Park is
Gone.
in our memory, is gone.
It's
We're gonna-
enshrined.
Yeah, is enshrined. I mean, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
When they get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's going to be because of Chester Bennington and what they did there.
Yeah.
Now they're building something else off of the same success, but it's different
Yeah.
and it's very good. I'm a huge Emily Armstrong fan. I think she's incredible, and I think she's done an incredible job with this band.
Yeah.
But it's not the same band.
Yeah.
They have the same name, they have a similar sound, but it's
Yeah.
not the same band. I don't think we can say that.
And in my discussion over there at our falafel place, of course, where people discuss rock,
Yes.
as one does at a falafel place.
Yes.
That was the point that this young lady was saying, is like, it's not the same. And I rebutted with, to your point, it's not going to be the same. And I think what Mike and the guys did was they acknowledged that, and they said, okay, A, we're deciding we're going to keep going. We
Yep.
decided we're going to stay Linkin Park and we're going to keep going. B, how do we make sure we can sustain it from a band perspective? How do we make sure that Linkin Park is still Linkin Park 5 years from now,
Yeah.
10 years from now? The point I brought up was, okay, look at other bands that, kind of switch things around, like Audio Slave,
Yeah.
right? So you had Tom Morello and Chris Cornell come in and make Audio Slave. And they had some good hits.
Yeah.
They
They
had
had two great albums.
two great albums.
Mhm.
But then after that, what happened? Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Look at Velvet Revolver, right?
Oh, yeah.
Scott Weiland, Slash come together, and again, they had one good album, and nothing after that.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know what Linkin Park was thinking, during this transition, but I think part of the decision to go with Emily Armstrong was, number one, she's an amazing singer. She can
Oh, yeah.
kill any
Mhm.
song.
Check
Oh,
out
yeah.
Dead Sarah. All of their music.
Oh, yeah.
is
Check out
really
Dead
good.
Sarah. Yeah, that there's no doubt she can sing a song. She
Oh,
is
yeah.
amazing. But I think the other part is, with an Emily Armstrong, can they make new music? And the answer is a resounding yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The,
The
the new
Emptiness Machine.
the new album is really
Yeah.
good.
And I'm already going to say this. Their next album is going to be
Yeah.
really good.
Well,
Yeah.
What I'm hoping is that it's not going to be the same album, that we want to see some growth. And that's,
Yeah.
I think this is kind of what I have an issue with the purists, is like, we go back, Blue
Yeah.
Album,
Yeah.
right? Like, do you want your band to sound the same all the time? We were just talking about this. The Postage Malone. Do we want
Postage Malone.
No Stitch Malone.
do we want White Iverson for what, 15 years that
Yeah.
he's been in this shit? He's doing country music right
He's doing
now,
country-
right?
Yeah.
Post Malone's one of my favorite artists. It's
Yeah.
just, even one of his newest albums, Feeling Whitney, just
Mhm.
stripped down
Mm-hmm.
acoustic, him and his feels is
Yeah.
to where he came from.
Yeah.
God, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, he's this fucked up kid from a broken family,
Yep.
broke into the industry, was accepted by the hip hop community, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But then he cleaned himself up. He
Yeah.
became a parent, right? I don't know if he's married or not. He has a family. Like, we've seen him grow up. Still same tattoos and weird teeth and weird sense of humor.
He started a Raising Cane's franchise.
He did. And he's grown up.
But
Yeah.
you've seen his music grow with him.
Exactly.
It's,
And I think when you have purists that want that White Iverson and that's it,
In
I
this
think,
case, Meteora.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's where we start seeing some of the problems between the purists, and people are happy to see
Mm.
bands grow. And the bands that do grow have to do it in a way that doesn't alienate the purists.
Exactly.
yes.
But can also draw in. So, like, Deftones are a perfect example. There's kids many Mayhem's age that love the Deftones,
Yeah.
and they're not the same band
They're
as they
not,
were.
no.
Like, do we really need 20 years of White Ponies?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense to do
One
that.
of the best
Even-
albums
well-
of all time.
Well,
by the way.
even between
Their
White
best album.
Pony and Around the
Yes.
Fur was so different.
Oh yeah.
Same thing with Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Their albums grew.
They grew like to your point. I remember listening to that first album. I think I was like 11 or 12.
Thanks for that.
But no, it was mind blowing to change like 6-7 years later. I was in high school about to graduate, and they had just come out with another album. What's the name of that song? I forgot, but it just you had seen the growth,
Yeah.
but I don't know, you see the growth, you see the progress, the change in their music,
Yeah.
but just to still feel raw, the feeling
Yeah.
of
Yep.
like Chester's emotion,
His pain.
Yeah.
His pain, man.
the message still delivered through.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's, talking about Purist and I, like me and Paramore, I didn't feel it as much. It is a hot take. A lot of people don't agree with me.
Yeah.
It's just, as the years wore on, as albums came out, I just didn't feel it
Well,
as much.
Exactly. Well, and it's the difference between the singers too, because like when you hear Chester scream, "I put my trust," and that's one thing. It's just like, oh. And when you hear Emily singing it, it's something different.
Yeah. Well, we talk about covers all the time, right? Like,
Yes.
if you're gonna cover a song, you need
You
to
better
like,
cover
You
it
better cover it well,
And
and it can't be the same song.
No, you can't.
either.
You
It
gotta
has
make it
to
your
be their own, and the way Emily sings it is not like the way Chester
No.
sings it. I think she's bringing her own experience into that.
and not trying to replace it. And I think that's what a lot of people are getting the bad rub on. Is
Yeah.
that, she's first off, the tragedy of Chester Bennington
Exactly.
is,
Oh,
is
yeah.
it. You can't. It's not like he got kicked out.
Yeah.
It's not like a Van Halen situation. This is
No.
not that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an impossible task for a band that just lost not just a bandmate but their friend, a brother.
Yeah.
It was an impossible task to begin with. And what I would say, and I guess my stance on this hot take is, I do believe that Linkin Park choosing Emily Armstrong as their new lead singer was the correct thing to do, not to appease us, the listeners or whatever, but for the overall sustainability of the band that's to come.
They wanted to let people know that Chester Bennington wasn't Linkin Park, and that Linkin Park is a band without Chester Bennington.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And as sad as it is to say it, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
It's not wrong.
no.
It's not.
Dang, we got Andy,
Yep.
man.
And then, so what I will say is Mike Shirota and Emily Armstrong have demonstrated a lot of courage.
yeah,
Mike
Yeah.
Shirota had a decision to make. Him and the band were like, okay, are we going to continue?
Mm-hmm.
And if we do continue, we mess this up, we're going to alienate all the people that
Yeah.
have supported us this whole time.
yeah,
And I think they made a very calculated decision in picking Emily Armstrong. Now, Emily Armstrong is coming to this band already an iconic band,
yeah,
already going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, they're that good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to replace their lead singer.
Mhm.
They're magnificent lead singer.
Yeah.
Not just the lead singer, but like an icon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably
Yes.
the
I'm
face
going to
of
come in
Linkin Park.
and replace this person.
yeah,
How much courage does that take?
Mhm.
And I mean, when you see them perform, you really don't miss anything. I'm not going to say she has the same presence as Chester
Yeah.
Bennington, because he was very intense
very intense. Very
when he was
into it.
performing. She is not as intense, but she still
Well, in her own way.
She commands
Yeah,
the attention, but she's not like in your face screaming at you intense. Like
Yeah.
she has her own style. But it took a lot of courage to do that, because she knew that if she messed this up, that she could alienate Mike Shirota and the rest of the band's following.
yeah,
And I think it was a very calculated risk,
yeah.
but I think it's paid out perfectly. I think
Well, and,
overall it's a great.
The band won't have
Decision.
success.
yes,
You
they
know,
will.
they still have it's very like a solid formula and a
Yeah.
solid like bond.
Exactly.
They will have success. It's just like you said, it's just a very touchy subject.
Mhm.
It's a very like love to a lot of loyal fans.
Yeah.
It's like children
I know.
Yeah.
going through a divorce, and he's like, "Here's your new stepmom," and they're
Kind
like,
of.
accept them. And for a lot of these people, they just love Chester
yeah,
so much.
Exactly. Well, and for a lot of people, this is the first time they ever hear Emily Armstrong.
True.
That's one side of the coin,
True.
right? Kind of to your point, this is the first time they ever saw this person, so it's like,
That's true. That
It's-
is very true. If you're not familiar with her, and you're like, who?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
And I kind of get it. So I can get why the purists or just very hardcore Linkin Park fans
Yeah.
are upset. I get it, but I don't think you can look at it as the same band like you said.
No,
Yeah.
it's a
isn't.
different band, and they need to be judged on a different scale.
Exactly.
There's no way that they're going to compete with
Yeah.
the Chester Bennington Linkin Park.
and I think, I mean, we've seen bands, I mean, for 40 years deal with death and grief and heartache, right?
Mhm.
Leonard Skinner and
Oh, yeah.
Pantera with Dimebag Darrell.
Well,
Mhm.
there's
Uh,
bands that hardly have any original members, like Black Flag.
Exactly.
Have hardly any original members left.
Exactly. And it's hard to keep going when you lose a bandmate and a friend and a brother and a sister, especially to addiction and
Yeah.
to depression and to suicide. That's hard in itself. And anyone who's gone through that can understand just how traumatic that is. So imagine that coupled with the pressure from your fans, from your record company, from we need to make money because we need to put food on the table, right?
Mhm.
It's an impossible situation
Oh, yeah.
to deal with. And I mean, kudos to them, because I mean, you look at other bands who have gone through similar tragedies like Pantera.
Yeah.
I love Pantera. Pantera's one of my
Oh yeah.
favorite bands, but they have not, ever since Dimebag Darrell died, they haven't gotten back to that same thing.
Mhm.
And for a reason, Dimebag Darrell's only is iconic. You
Mhm.
can't replace Dimebag Darrell.
Oh no.
We're talking about this, and I'm looking at Freddie Mercury,
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
even Queen. Even
That's
Queen
true.
Mhm.
replaced Freddie Mercury. I believe Adam Lambert.
Yeah, Adam
Yeah.
Lambert.
Adam Lambert, which they, to their point, they've had success with him.
Oh yeah.
Is it the same Queen?
No.
No, absolutely
no, it'll
not.
never
I
be
think-
the same Queen.
I think they scientifically proved that Freddie Mercury had the perfect voice, like the perfect singing voice. How are you going to replace that?
No,
You can't.
You can't.
not just
It's-
by voice, just
well, by
persona. Just
by
Yeah.
somebody like 20 years younger. And I mean, it worked well.
it worked
Yeah.
well. They toured.
They
They're still
toured.
successful.
They're still successful,
Hey,
but
and-
it's not the same band.
And guess what? They still sold albums.
True.
The same people who
Mhm.
were naysayers and didn't like it, they still bought it. And guess what? Linkin Park, you're still gonna buy their albums. You're still gonna go to the concerts.
Yeah, they're still going to
True.
fill up stadiums.
They're still gonna fill up stadiums.
True.
And they should, because they deserve it. I mean,
Mhm.
they're still a kick-ass band. They're still one of the most influential bands of our time. And more credit to them. We'll still be listening. We'll still be watching, and hopefully, if they come to a venue near us, maybe we can.
Yes, I think,
I'll be there.
I think so. Phoenix.
be
Yeah.
there.
The new Linkin Park.
That's right.
I'm a huge fan of Emily Armstrong. I think she
Mm.
does a great job. I love the new album. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I can't say much more about that.